Thanks, everyone, for having me, for inviting me to be able to speak about our Cooking for Vitality program. Again, really privileged to be able to speak on behalf of our entire team and share the results with you today. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just going to turn off my screen. Okay. All right, so as I mentioned a moment ago, today's presentation is about the Cooking for Vitality program. So this is a program which Stephanie Gladman, our registered dietitian, and myself run out of the teaching kitchen at Elixir, and now virtually. So a few years ago, with funding support from the Halderley Foundation, we were able to conduct a study to evaluate the feasibility and acceptability of the program. And it's these results which I'll be sharing with you today. So I'll mention that the work that I'll be presenting was a collaborative effort with Dr. Jennifer Jones leading the quantitative analysis and Dr. Cheryl Pritlove leading the qualitative portion of the study. Okay, so over the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to just be running through the background, purpose, methods, results, and then some summary and discussion, and a little bit of our next steps. Okay, so what is cancer-related fatigue? I'm sure most of you are very familiar, but sort of our plain language version of it is that cancer-related fatigue is when you feel physically, emotionally, or mentally very tired because of your cancer or cancer treatment. It's one of the most prevalent and distressing side effects experienced by patients with cancer during and after treatment, and it's why it was one that we wanted to focus on with a cooking and nutrition intervention. So a little bit on the background. So research shows that there's a positive association between nutrition and cancer-related fatigue. However, only a small minority of cancer survivors are actually meeting the nutritional guidelines, and existing nutritional interventions have proven largely ineffective in bringing about sustained behavior change. There are group-based culinary nutrition interventions that teach food preparation and practical cooking skills along with nutritional information. And those have been shown to improve participants' confidence in cooking and diet quality. However, despite the benefits of cooking classes as a medium for nutritional intervention and evidence supporting a link between cancer-related fatigue and nutrition, to date, there are no culinary nutrition interventions for cancer-related fatigue that have been developed or evaluated. And so that's why it was an area that we did want to focus on. Okay, so which brings me to the purpose of our pilot study, which was to develop a group-based culinary nutrition intervention aimed at helping cancer survivors to self-manage and reduce their cancer-related fatigue, and to evaluate the feasibility, acceptability, and preliminary impact of such a program. The image there is our teaching kitchen at Elixir. If you're not familiar with, we haven't been there in a while, but the space just did a great job sort of facilitating a lot of these interactive programs. So on our methods, so to achieve this aim, we conducted a prospective single-arm embedded mixed methods feasibility study of cancer survivors with cancer-related fatigue. And this was conducted at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center. We employed quantitative surveys at baseline immediately after the completion of the intervention, which was about 7 weeks, and 3 months post. Qualitative interviews were also conducted 3 months post intervention completion. The participants in the study included adult cancer survivors who had completed their cancer treatment and were experiencing cancer-related fatigue. Other inclusion criteria included that they were over 18 years of age, they understood and read English, they had access to a computer, and that they had access to a kitchen and were willing to participate and try some of the recipes. Patients not willing to sign the consent or attend the classes in person were excluded from the study. So highlighting a little bit about our participant characteristics and who participated in our study here. I guess just of note, the majority were female participants at 88%, and most were breast cancer patients as well at 61%. Okay, so what did we do? This is our intervention, and it was to design a group-based culinary nutrition class aimed at increasing the understanding of how food choices could impact energy levels, and to help manage the side effects of fatigue. Also establishing basic food preparation and cooking skills, and the application of culinary techniques that really minimize the effort and energy required to prepare meals. Okay, so and also mention that the program development was informed by several theoretical frameworks, including social cognitive theory, social learning theory, and experiential learning theory. In addition, the intervention draws upon several established behavior change techniques that have been associated with long-term positive outcomes for cooking skills and diet. Okay, so included in our class and in the intervention, there were 2 cooking sessions that were separated by about 6 weeks of support emails and resources. So we would send out a new email every week, sort of highlighting a lot of the information and content discussed in those cooking classes, as well as we provided brand new recipes and some support videos. Also in the first class, participants were guided through a nutrition presentation that was led by our dietitian. And following that presentation, they participated in an interactive cooking class. So they sort of joined us around the counter in the kitchen, and we would prepare 3 recipes together, really highlighting a lot of the key points discussed in the nutrition presentation. And as you can see in the infographic, the intervention aimed to support participants in 3 key areas: nutrition education, the culinary skill building, and then, as I mentioned, with the emails, reinforcement, and support. So for the nutrition portion, these were evidence-based nutrition recommendations for helping to better manage cancer-related fatigue. And these recommendations were broken down into 6 main categories. So really getting enough protein, the anti-inflammatory foods, so colorful fruits and vegetables and whole grains and spices, eating more fiber, so a lot about more whole grains and vegetables as well. Having more small meals and snacks frequently throughout the day instead of 2 or 3 heavy or big meals. Drinking plenty of fluids throughout the day and staying hydrated, and how to build a balanced plate. For the culinary skill building, this was really patient informed. So integrating the opportunity to build cooking skills and confidence, in addition to the nutrition recommendations for fatigue, was really an innovative approach. And given that cancer-related fatigue often limits cancer survivors' ability to complete common cooking tasks, energy conservation skills were embedded throughout the recipes to help minimize the exertion, the preparation, the cleanup. And so what we did before the study was provide a voluntary survey to patients that were coming into Elixir, as well as the CRS clinic across the street. We wanted to sort of identify what were the most fatiguing activities involved with cooking at home. So the results of this survey, along with the extent evidence in the area, really helped to inform the design, the recipe development, the cooking skills that we would highlight in the classes. So from that survey, the 4 top most exhausting activities were grocery shopping, meal prep, cleanup, And then meal planning. So just thinking of what to make that day, thinking of what to make for the week. And so we really try to focus on those main criteria. So we would integrate techniques and cooking tips to address obviously these cooking barriers, and a lot of that centered around cooking with non-perishable ingredients, setting up your pantry, so things to limit grocery shopping trips, utilizing frozen fruits and vegetables and proteins, the utilization of one pot meals, trying to limit the amount of dishes necessary, and utilizing tools in the kitchen to make the meal prep easier. So what sort of equipment can we use so that we're not spending a lot of time chopping and cutting and peeling and that sort of thing. And then parchment paper. Parchment paper was another thing that was a great tool. I'm sure many of you use it, but we use it as much as possible, again, to help with the meal preparation. It really helped to reduce a lot of the cleanup. And it also helped to create context around the context of balancing and building a balanced plate. So we use that quite a bit as well. So for reinforcement and support, so as mentioned, after that first cooking class, we would send out an email once a week to participants, and that would sort of reinforce the nutrition tips that were highlighted in the first class, a lot of the cooking techniques as well, and we would give them a new recipe. A lot of the participants were excited about receiving new recipes. We also developed 2 YouTube videos highlighting a lot of those points and introducing more tips and tricks as well. And throughout that time, we offered email support from our dietitian and from myself. So if there were any culinary or nutrition related questions, we were there to help support them through the process. Okay, so we had 3 outcomes of interest. First was the feasibility of the experimental methods and intervention. This was determined by program adherence and qualitative interviews. Next was acceptability and perceived helpfulness of the intervention, and this was informed by qualitative interviews. And then exploratory clinical outcomes, specifically the impact of the intervention on fatigue, energy, overall disability, and confidence to manage fatigue. And this was measured using questionnaire data and qualitative interviews. With respect to the analysis, I'll mention that adherence was measured and statistical analysis of the questionnaire data was performed using SAS. And the qualitative interviews were transcribed verbatim, coded and critically analyzed using the constant comparison method. So for the purposes of time, I'm not going to get too much into more detail around this area, but I should mention that we did publish this work in the Journal of Nutrients, and there's a more fulsome description of our methods there, and I provided that publication link at the end of the presentation. Okay, so in regards to feasibility, recruitment occurred between November 2016 and August 2019. During which time 90 individuals contacted us with interest in the study. Of those that were eligible, 70% provided consent and completed the baseline assessment. 100% attended, of those, 100% attended the first class, and 83% attended the second class, with 79% completing T1 assessment and 72% completing the T2 assessment. So reasons for dropout are included in the flow diagram on the slide, but some of the more common ones were just date or time conflicts or improvements with fatigue and just having no interest in attending anymore. So the qualitative themes and findings, further supported the feasibility of the intervention. Specifically, participants felt that the length of the program and frequency of the in-class sessions and online communications was reasonable, bearing in mind the limitations posed by their fatigue. They explained that the in-class lessons and virtual communications were easy to understand and implement at home. And they appreciated the flexibility to attend other in-class sessions when timing conflicts or restrictions posed by the fatigue sort of prevented them from attending. With reference to ease of implementation, one of the participants explained that the hands-on class sessions helped to bring the recipe and culinary strategies to life, making it more real and more plausible to implement at home. As you can see from the direct quote, being able to do things hands-on, even if only part of the recipe we did ourselves, for me, it makes it much more real and more plausible to do at home. If I just watch, I understand it and see that it is possible, but it doesn't really penetrate. But it is the hands-on portion that brings it to life. So I did come home and prepare some food in parchment packages. Again, reference to the parchment. We did do a lot of recipes with parchment. Okay, and with respect to the acceptability, we relied on the qualitative data, which revealed two key themes, satisfaction with the program, and the second being areas for program improvement. So all of the participants demonstrated a high degree of satisfaction with the Cooking for Vitality intervention. They explained that the energy conserving tips, tricks, tools, specifically including the batch cooking and freezing, the use of the parchment paper, and strategies to reduce cleanup, also utilizing non-perishable and frozen ingredients, really helped them to work with and through their fatigue, and really enhancing the capacity for more meal preparation. Secondly, participants described the value of experiential learning. So citing the importance of hands-on demonstrations in retaining nutritional information and culinary skills, and then being able to apply them at home. And then finally, the program provided access to experts who could provide credible, reliable, and personalized nutritional and culinary knowledge. So as one participant explained, it is like having an expert in your pocket. If you put in the effort and make this recipe and you come up with a roadblock, there is someone there that will help you to figure it out. So while all the participants found the program to be of value, some also suggested ways in which the program could be improved. So they explained that the initial one-on-one consults could help to further personalize content, that a graduated multi-tiered program with sort of a beginner, intermediate, and advanced level would allow participants to enter the program where they felt most comfortable, while also allowing them to build upon and advance their knowledge base as they graduated sort of the different levels. More in-class cooking sessions. That was obviously really popular part of the program. And lastly, particularly for those who struggled with technology, it was explained that including more print materials rather than sending via email would be helpful. Okay, so as explained earlier, we measured the impact of the intervention on fatigue, energy, overall disability, and confidence to manage fatigue. So again, the questionnaires were administered at 3 time points, again, right before the first class, 6 weeks post, and then 3 months post. Okay, and then in regards to our scales and our questionnaires, fatigue was measured using the FACET scale. Disability was measured using HUDAS-2. Energy levels were measured using the the PALMS vigor subscale. And confidence in managing fatigue was measured using a 5-item scale that we constructed. So study constructed, it was adapted from previous confidence tools, but we constructed to reflect more of our work. And as you can see in the table, the survey data revealed statistically and clinically significant improvements in fatigue scores and fatigue management, disability, and fatigue. Specifically, fatigue scores significantly improved from T0 to T1 and T0 to T2. In regards to the confidence survey, these were the questions that we included. So I can manage my fatigue. I know which foods worsen my fatigue. I know which foods will improve my energy levels. I'm able to eat a variety of foods, and I can prepare foods in ways that help me from being too tired. So further reinforcing the positive impact of the intervention and confidence in self-managing fatigue. So these improvements in the clinical outcomes coincide with the qualitative results, which similarly revealed improvements in motivation, improvements in self-efficacy, and enhanced feelings of control, as well as overall improvements in fatigue and fatigue management. So with respect to the first three themes, participants explained that the recipes and culinary strategies provided through the Cooking for Vitality program made meal preparation feel more attainable, enhancing feelings of motivation and self-efficacy. This helped many of the participants to push through their fatigue to make healthier choices that they felt more confident with. Establishing a sense of control over one's diet was one way participants began to return to normal and gain an improved sense of control over their lives. For instance, one participant with respect to motivation said, instead of just being depressed that I don't know how to feed myself and eat something from takeout now, after finishing the Cooking for Vitality program, even if I'm tired, I stop at a grocery store and cook it on the same day. Like the fish packs, I can go to the grocery store, come home, and within 20 minutes, have something healthy to eat. Even when I'm really tired, it still seems like a feasible idea. What this means is a possibility to eat better. Another participant said the following with respect to improved feelings of self-efficacy and control. Managing fatigue is really about, for me, planning your day. Because of the Cooking for Vitality program, I have new preparation skills that help me to plan ahead or have things already frozen and ready to eat. I think that definitely there are days where I am too tired to cook, and now I have things available that aren't a peanut butter sandwich. And then finally, with respect to the fourth theme, which is improvement in fatigue and fatigue management, we found that while some participants felt the nutritional information and culinary skills presented in the program and the dietary changes that they made as a result had a direct impact of reducing their fatigue, most actually described a more indirect pathway. So emphasizing the multifactorial nature of their fatigue. So the cancer itself, the treatment, anxiety, depression, reduced physical activity, changes in diet, and comorbid conditions. So most explain that energy conservation strategies and the dietary changes improved overall energy levels, facilitating engagement in other activities like exercise. And it's the culmination of these changes that improved mood and facilitated improvement in illness management, all of which were believed to contribute to improvements of cancer-related fatigue. As you can see in this participant's quote, the Cooking for Vitality program improved his dietary practices and nutritional intake, resulting in improved energy and reduced fatigue. So I'll tell you up front, I think that my energy levels turned around as a result of the Cooking for Vitality program. I was eating better because I was shown some of the shortcuts. My body was absorbing nutrients that it hadn't before, and so I had more energy to go for a walk. I had more energy to prepare a nutritious meal, to meal, this program was just so significant, it should be required for everybody in their cancer treatment. So to sum up, the evidence from the study did suggest that the intervention was a feasible approach and highly acceptable to cancer survivors living with cancer-related fatigue. Specifically, in-person and remote access to program instructors, along with the availability of all the resources that we provided, were among the key factors that supported participants' adherence to and the successful implementation of the intervention. Moreover, the nutritional and culinary education content focused on the provision of tips geared specifically to the needs and limitations of those living with cancer-related fatigue, and removed some of the barriers to healthy eating and home cooking. As I mentioned before, the program garnered especially high ratings on measures of satisfaction and usefulness, with study participants rating their motivation and confidence to manage fatigue significantly higher upon completion of the program. The role of the instructors was instrumental in building motivation, confidence, and competence in culinary practices, ultimately facilitating greater participation in meal preparation at home and the consumption of healthier foods that met the nutritional needs that were outlined in the program, suggested to help with fatigue. These findings provide new insight into the value of adding a cooking component to any nutritional education around cancer survivors living with cancer-related fatigue, and furthermore, ultimately supporting the benefits of cooking classes as a medium for a nutritional intervention. So finally, the results from the intervention also provided preliminary support for improvements in perceptions of fatigue and fatigue management and their overall experiences of cancer-related fatigue. So, I mean, although the results of the intervention are encouraging, several limitations should be considered. And we had a relatively small sample size and no control group. So a control group could provide further insight into the direct impact of the program. Individuals that participated in the qualitative interviews were those that fully completed the intervention. So we didn't get any feedback from those that dropped out. Reasons of why they were unable to continue, a little more insight into reasons why they were able to continue could be beneficial for the program. And while both men and women cancer survivors experience cancer-related fatigue, intervention participants were predominantly women, as I highlighted before in the demographics table. And given that the gendered nature of domestic and culinary practices, the needs of men and women, and the potential barriers that they face to implementing nutritional knowledge and meal preparation at home may be different. So in turn, strategies to recruit more men in future studies is warranted. And then lastly, since shortly after study completion, we were hit with COVID and COVID-related restrictions, which has driven our program to go virtually. And it's demanded a lot of reimagining in terms of the program operations, which again, I'd be happy to talk about more following the presentation, for sure. But exploring the impact of such a program offered virtually will be important next steps in terms of research, as well as the running of our program. I think that image just sort of highlights, how we've had to pivot from teaching the class, but very happy to say that we are still continuing to offer this program, even though it's virtual. The response has still been very positive, so still very encouraging. And that's it. So thank you again for the opportunity. Again, huge thanks to the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation that supports our cooking program. and also the Elderly Foundation, who is a huge sponsor in the study itself, and then as well as George Brown College. So we were actually really privileged to be able to work with some of the culinary students at George Brown College with all of our nutrition and cooking criteria. We actually co-developed all the recipes for the program. And yeah, again, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share our study and our results. Again, here is the publication in the Journal of Nutrients. I've provided the link there. And again, such an amazing collaborative effort. We had a wonderful team, and it was a privilege to work with everyone. You know, I'm just the lucky one that gets to share the results, but we had, you know, such an amazing team. And like I mentioned, we are still offering the program. The study is completed, but we are still teaching this class. And if you did have any patients that you would like to refer, you can absolutely reach out to me. And we offer it monthly, virtually, of course. And also all of our contents, all of the recipes from the study, all the videos from the study are now public. And you can find them on our Elixir Kitchen website, where we have hundreds and hundreds of recipes, but we also have a section focused on side effect management, and one of those sections particularly with cancer-related fatigue. And so you can see some of the recipes that were offered in the study and some of the videos as well over there. But that's everything. And again, thank you again.